We are not licensed medical professionals. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are meant to share our experiences and not to diagnose or as a form of treatment. If you or anyone you know is currently suffering, respectfully encourage them to seek help from a licensed medical professional. The topics discussed in this podcast may be triggering for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Now Try It with Wine. I'm Mary.
And I'm Des. And in today's episode, we are talking about accountability and toxicity. I have a very special guest, or Mary and I have a very special guest, my pops.
Hello.
That's it.
You sounded very enthusiastic.
Hey, nice to meet you. So just before we get into this podcast, I just want to preface, if you are inspired to have a similar discussion with someone about the topics discussed in today's podcast, please ensure you are in a safe space and have an open mind.
Very important when you're talking about toxicity because you don't want to trigger somebody with a conversation about it when they're not in the space to hear it.
Exactly. So this episode, Mary did most of the research, so she's going to be the big person.
I'm the big lady.
She's the big person today.
And it won't be over till I sing.
And we brought my dad along because, yeah.
For funsies. He took it personal.
Yeah. Mary was sending him a lot of stuff. And what did you think?
I think I might have some problems.
So I kind of wanted to go into this week's topic with a quote that I felt like encapsulated what I was trying to get at. I've learned that people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. And I think that we all have toxic traits that we don't think are a big deal or that we don't show a lot that affect other people and the way they feel. Mm. So I kind of wanted to list a couple of the most common toxic traits that were listed on a couple of the websites I looked into. So one of them is taking no responsibility. Do we know people who do that?
I could say so.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I have a lot of people, especially in our family culture. I feel like we're told not to hold our elders accountable. So there's a lot of them who have gotten to the point now because of with age, they don't hold themselves accountable at all. They take no responsibility for what they've done.
I would say more of the fact that it's not that they're being elders. I think they just don't know how to handle taking that responsibility because, like you said, it's always been that you don't tell them they did something wrong. Yeah. They don't know how to take that explanation.
You can't handle the truth.
Exactly. That's basically it.
They don't want to look at themselves. It's
right.
It's difficult. Jealous or hyper-protective tendencies. I have the hyper-protective thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that to you.
Yeah, I'm very hyper aware of people, especially people that I'm like I love, and I want to protect them from things that I think I've become overbearing.
I'll agree with that on me because I don't know if Des could probably maybe agree with me. I'm very protective when it comes to my people. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's something somebody's telling them or, physically or what, but,
You take it personal.
Yeah, I take it very personal.
Me too. If they're expressing any kind of discomfort, I get angry and I have to protect them by getting hyper. I become, the barking Chihuahua?
Nah, but you are.
I'll bite you.
Yeah, you're not just all bark.
That's why I said I'm the Chihuahua. Because the bigger dogs, they'll bark, but they won't probably bite you. I'm probably more like a Rottweiler.
Yeah.
Manipulation.
I know a guy.
Right? I feel like especially in romantic relationships, manipulation comes into it because they want you to think it's your idea. And so they're messing with you or setting you up to do, at least for me anyways, when I was in a bad relationship, he would set me up to do what he wanted to do by manipulating things in my environment.
Yeah, same.
Overly competitive. I'm adding Des. I'm looking at you.
Why?
Your dad kind of gave you side eye and then turned away.
Side eye.
But I think that's our culture is overly competitive. So I think it's very easy for us to get caught up in being competitive with one another because we're taught that that's kind of our thing.
I I guess I never saw it as over competitive, but I do like to be the best.
I don't know if it's over competitiveness, but more of the I want to do better. You know,
But I will say you have a different view.
Yeah.
Because my dad's like, I want to do better, but we know people that are, I want to be the best, and I want to show people I'm the best.
That's the thing. You know, I guess it's more like you have the two, I guess you could say, subcultures of it, where, like Des said, you have that one view of, I want to be better, I want to do better. Then you have the other culture of, I want to be better, but I'm going to throw it in your face.
Yeah.
No matter how much it is. You know, it becomes that competition.
The tit for tat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's one of the main things when somebody gets to that point.
And I think I might be offensive about this, but I feel like especially when it comes to like a real male-heavy dominated environment, I see that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can agree with Mary on that.
I'll agree to that. I mean, you do see it. It's, I guess when we were talking off of this, it becomes that lack of a better description, it's a pissing contest.
Yeah.
You know, my truck's bigger. My truck has more of this. My truck has more of that. It's like in the long run, in reality, I guess you could say I'm older now. They're still going to break down, and you're still going to have to fix the shit, you know? So I can see that, but I think there's more to it than just the fact that somebody's
competitive
about it.
I think before we continue, we should drink a little.
Okay, we'll take a beverage discussion break.
So, Dad, would you like to say what you're drinking today?
No, because if I don't like it, I don't want somebody else to think that it's bad or good.
I'll say it then.
We have no problem saying the truth.
Yeah. So, we're not doing wine today. We're doing Select Club Pecan. How do you say that word?
Praline.
Praline, a Canadian whiskey with neutral grain spirits and natural pecan flavors. All right, let's try it. Here, I'll open it.
Ooh. How does it
you
smell?
can really smell the pecan aroma.
Does it?
Praline is usually really sweet, so I'm wondering how that's gonna carry through.
The whiskey's only 35%.
Only 35%.
Oh my God, I am really making myself sound worse.
It might be sweet.
It's all that sugar in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're mixing it with a little bit of Coke. It's a no. It's a no.
It's an okay. I mean, it's.
I mean, I have the honey.
It's kind of like the best description I can give it is probably like drinking maple syrup.
I can smell it when as soon as he put the glass down, I could smell the aroma of it, and I was like, no.
Mm-mm.
You want a new glass?
No, I'm fine. That'll be enough to knock me out for later on tonight.
Okay.
So I want to just go over a couple more of the examples that they gave. One I see a lot is hypercritical or judgmental tendencies. I think as a culture, we have the tendency to be hypercritical of one another and hyperjudgmental.
I would say more critical on my end.
I would say more critical.
Yeah, if I was going to pick between the two, I think it's critical. I mean, people judge you, but it's done silently. It's the criticizing.
It's a nice thing. It's silent.
Yeah.
No, I'll do it in person.
I know you would, but I mean, as a giant, we're looking at the culture. We don't really do the judgment, passing judgment, unless it gets religious. Mm-hmm. But the everyday thing is the critical, being critical of one another.
Right.
Gaslighting.
We said it off the podcast. Someone's a gaslighter at this table. He's smiling right now. And it's only because he came to the conclusion.
We'll get into that later. The one that I didn't think of as necessarily a toxic trait, but I guess now that I think about it, it is inconsistency. I think that's something that I really saw a lot growing up, just because we aren't being consistent with one another, and it creates an unsafe feeling and anxiety for people.
I think I see inconsistency I guess differently. Like in Andrew and I's relationship, he tends to just do things that I want to do because he knows that like I just won't have fun, which kind of sucks because that's an inconsistency. Like I would want to make sure that he's having fun as well.
So some important terms to remember as we get into more of like our roundtable discussion. I want to define responsibility or accountability. We're going to use them kind of interchangeably as we go forward, but I wanted to do a quick definition about it. So taking accountability is defined as the state of taking ownership for something within one's control or management. And then we're talking a little bit about that. It's like we have toxic traits that hurt the people that we love, but what we do going forward is on us. So like we know that we have these traits, but I think there's, for me anyways, with my family, there's this willingness to overlook it because they don't want to deal with it for themselves. So they're willing to sacrifice someone else's well-being or mental state. And in their minds, it's temporary. Like I just did it one time, like, and it's over. I'm over it, so it's over. But like what I said in the beginning, they won't remember what I said or what I did, but they're gonna remember how I made them feel. And I feel like I carry that a lot in my interactions with people because I'll get like super stressed out or anxious in someone's presence, even though they're not doing anything. But it's because my mind and my body are still remembering.
You're still reminiscent of what occurred.
Yeah,
You know?
and they're over it, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But real quick on that, I think it comes down to the fact that it's the old saying. The saying is, a father will forgive, but a father won't forget. So you can forgive them for whatever they did, but it's the fact that you're never going to forget it.
Yeah.
But at some point, we'll get into it later on. At some point, you got to let it go.
Yeah.
Whether it was fixed or not, you got to let it go.
Yeah. So in our roundtable discussion, I read an article from Healthline that talked about the most common causes of trauma in the Latino community. And I feel like for me anyways, a lot of the toxic traits that I see come from some kind of trauma-based incident that made them that way or made them feel that way. So one of the issues that they brought up was that we were raised to believe that caring about ourselves is selfish. Did you experience that growing up?
Caring for yourself as in what?
Like self-care.
In general.
I don't think it was ever really brought up. Not, I'm not going to, you're going to get a lot of feathers ruffled here.
I told you, Dad, we don't care.
But as in a quote unquote white Caucasian family where the children are always like, oh, tell me how you feel, blah, blah, blah. Sit down, let's talk about this. And I don't think it was much of the sit down and talk about this. It was more like the straightforward, what's wrong?
Yeah.
So I guess like you didn't have like a safe.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, let's go sit down in the den and let's go talk about it.
Or like get to the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, get to the point. We got shit to do.
That's what Mary said. I think it was in our, like our trailer, that Hispanic culture, the parents are just too busy to make sure that the kids are okay. So when
validation.
Yeah. So when something does happen, it's just like, okay, what's wrong? Because like you said, I have shit to do. I want to take care of you, but I have to do something else.
I think that plays into the other kind of like example that kind of leads into it is that our communities tend to be low income and have experienced housing insecurity, food insecurity, scarcity of daily resources like gas, and concerns over money.
I would say that does have a part to play on it, but in the time that we live now, I don't think it's as big of a distraction as it was, let's just say my era. You're still going to have your single moms. You're still going to have some cases, your single dads, or just a family that can't seem to get to that position where they're a little more secure. But at the same time, I think at some point you kind of look at it and go, I need to fix this. I need to move forward. So when you ask your kids what's wrong, it's more of the hurry and tell me so that way either I can fix it or we can move on from this. Yeah. We're not going to dwell on it.
I think because you guys have evolved past it, like you kind of like you've gotten over the hurdle, like where you're more secure. Like with my, I want to say part of my family that lives well below the poverty line, those concerns are still really big in the forefront of their minds. You know, there's addiction that usually gets brought in at that point that makes it like so that even if it is a 2-parent household, they're not getting the full income of that
Yeah.
or earning potential of like one of the parents or sometimes even both because of the effects of it.
I can see that. I do know or used to know people that were like that, but
I think there's a lot of programs now that
yeah,
weren't necessarily
that's what I was
there.
trying to think on how to say it. I mean, both of y'all know that I don't hold my tongue, but and it's like I say with my brother a lot. There's a point where you have to pull your head out of your ass. You know, whether you have an addiction, whether it be drugs, gambling, whatever.
Alcohol.
You know, alcohol, whatever it is that when you're not drunk or you're not high, and you realize I'm struggling to put food on the table. I can't feed my kid. So at some point, I think it's looking back or look to yourself and go, I need to pull my head out of my ass because this isn't going to change. You know, is this going to be what my kids know?
Yeah.
You know, it's a good example for me was I grew up on the South Side.
What?
So did I.
You know, one day, you know, we're struggling and making decisions on what we're buying. You know, and I turn around, we're counting pennies to make sure we got enough. And there's this couple behind us, 3 kids, food stamps, everything they want.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see the generational look because it's the dad's in shorts, socks to his knees, tattoos. Even the kid had pierced earrings, pierced ears in his ear. And I'm like, no, I'm not raising my kids here. I want better for them. So to me, when somebody says, well, it's not my fault, well, it is your fault to a point.
Or it's your fault, but it's not your fault, but it's your problem.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
like Mary said, there's things that you can change but decide not to.
Yeah. I think for me, I think the example I gave you guys when I pitched the episode to you was like, I hear a lot on my side of the family. Well, my dad was a piece of shit, so that's why I don't know how to be a man. Or my mom was, absent, so I don't know how to be a good parent or a good friend or whatever. It's not your fault that you had a shitty card dealt you, but it is your responsibility going forward not to let that affect your life.
I
Exactly.
agree with that because it goes back to when are you going to change? I mean, I can give you examples. Me growing up, I was spoiled until my mom and my stepdad got married. That was an eye-shattering experience. I want to say for the first 7 years of their marriage, it was hell. We fought. I'm not talking cussing at each other. I'm talking fist. You know, I don't know how many times I hit him and he hit me. Growing up, I was like, I tell the girls, or I tell Desi, because me and Desi have more of that relationship. I used to sit up at night. So I was probably like 15, 16 years old before I actually moved out. And I would actually think about how many ways I could kill him before getting caught.
Yeah.
Or how can I do it without getting caught? So when I got married, of course, to Des's mom, that was my biggest fear was, when I come to discipline my girls, I don't want to whip their ass like I got whipped. And I'm talking waterboarding before it was known. I had a brand new shovel handle broken off on my calf. It's that. And when I hear people say, well, my dad was this, my dad was that, or it's like, okay, that's your dad. What's your excuse?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, that's the way I was raised. Okay, well, if you were raised to eat shit, is that all you're going to expect to eat?
Yeah.
So I have sympathy or empathy. I would rather say empathy for people that go through it. But I guess that's what's made me to the point where I'm like, okay, well, then what are you going to do about it?
So you have it to a point, basically, which makes sense. I agree how you said it. because you went through something as well. So you can see that there is a way to change.
Yeah, there's always a way. And for somebody to sit there and say, well, I'm still going through this, and I look at them and I put a couple of things. It's like where you're at now, your age, experiences that you've already had or people have already had. And it's like, okay, well, why do you keep looking at the past?
Yeah.
When your future's in the front? You're not going to change what happened. Right now, I'll say me and my dad have a better relationship now than we've ever had. And it took me having kids to realize that's the only way he knew. Being poor, having nothing. And he was always angry. He was angry because he was poor. My dad grew up in Mexico. Worked his way over here. I mean, he's the proverbial American dream. 3 engineering degrees. Retired from one of the world's largest oil companies. But he grew up so pissed off and mad that that's all he knew.
Yeah.
So when it's kind of like you threw me and him when they got married, you threw the two of us into a ring. Was like, okay, y'all motherfuckers need to fucking get along. How am I going to get along with him if I don't know who the fuck he is? How is he going to get along with me if he doesn't even know how to raise a kid?
Yeah.
I never asked that. Was it really just thrown in, or like, did you ever meet him before?
I met him and he did try, but at that time I was 7, 8 years old, and it was still kind of like, who are you? Even when they got married and they bought their house and we all moved in, now we're this
blended family.
Yeah, instant family. It's like,
Yeah, because your sister was a...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my older sister, stepsister, and then it was my youngest stepsister. My brother wasn't in the picture yet. He wasn't born. But it was just like, how do you do that and not blame yourself?
Yeah.
And it took me get married, have kids, and be like, hey, that wasn't always my fault. I ain't gonna lie. There was some times that I just did shit to piss him off.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can see that. It's just hard for me. He showed me a lot, but he showed me also, like, if you stay there, that's your problem. That's your fault. If you don't want to move, then that's you. Then don't complain when nothing gets better.
Yeah.
He's also the one that taught me, hey, the world's hard. Whoever tells you that it's easy and you're going to be whatever you want, they're lying. It's like I told Des and Andrew, when they came and told me they wanted to get married. Whoever tells you they got the perfect marriage is lying to you.
That's what I told Des.
Because you're not going to have the everyday, glorious morning, oh, birds are singing and all that. It's the one day, you might just have a fight that you never thought was going to come. But if you don't ever move forward, you're never going to get that. You're never going to have that experience and move on, where you have that notch and say, oh, we went through that. The experiences keep moving.
Yeah. I do think that, like, as another person who's gone through trauma, the fear of becoming the abuser to somebody else is crippling.
Yes. The first time I had to spank Des.
Let's go.
It was hard. I had told my wife, if I get to the point where I can't stop or it's bad, you need to step in. And it wasn't bad. It was a spank on her butt, and I talked to her. But closing that door, I closed the door and I cried because I had never wanted to get to a point where my daughter would fear me.
Yeah.
I would always tell them, of course we had our other daughter, Alyssa. I would always tell them, fear or respect is what I want. I'd rather have a little bit of both, but I'll take either one. And in my eyes, they're pretty good kids.
Yeah.
They're a little bitchy sometimes, but they stand up for themselves, and that's what I want.
God, this is my podcast.
Hey, he's being honest. Quiet down.
Well, we're going to be honest. You didn't say it like that. You said you either fear or respect me. I don't care which one I have. You didn't say the
But
other.
he knew what he meant. And
I know what you meant.
You know what I meant.
but he needs to make it black and white, because I agree with him to a certain extent. When you're talking to younger people, they only understand black and white. They don't understand nuance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were talking about a little bit earlier when you were saying, you made it about yourself when the abuse and stuff was happening. I did the same thing. I was like, well, this is all my fault.
Yeah.
Because you don't understand that there's things that are outside of your control.
And it is. I mean, it's you have that where no matter what, it's like a divorce. The kids will always see it as it's their fault because they don't understand it. Unless your kids are older, then they understand. Okay, mom and dad don't love each other no more or whatever. But as a child, you're always going to think it's my fault. It's my fault. And in my case, I'll admit, yes, I did shit to piss him off sometimes. But then there were times that it was just like, I didn't feed the dogs in time. And there we are, bitching and fighting and screaming at each other and fists are flying.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you start realizing there's a reason. And it's just not because he was mad. There's an underlying reason.
Yeah, I think that's why, to a certain extent, I was telling Des, a lot of people give me shit about not disparaging my father and cutting him out of my life completely. Granted, we don't have a very close relationship at all, but I don't cut him out completely. If he texts me, I say hi back, or Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, whatever. I don't just cut him off completely, because to a certain extent I can empathize with him, because he didn't know any better. Like, my dad was raised in such a level of poverty and like a very closed society. They were rancho people. They lived out in the country. And if you know anything about Mexicans who are ranchos, they stick to themselves. Like, it's a very closed. They're very fearful of outside influences coming in and telling them how to live their lives or whatever. And the extreme level of poverty he grew up in. Yeah. So
you're talking poverty of third world country.
Yeah.
What a shack that's probably made of mud. Hay for a roof and dirt floor.
Yeah, right. Like, there's just like a building structure that has some furniture in it.
Yeah.
And that was the extent of it. Like, nothing's new in the house. Like, I didn't understand that growing up, because it was almost like no one tells you this is wrong, or like not wrong, but like this is different. Even though I saw different, like my mom's family was obviously a little bit in a different situation. So it was never made apparent to me that there was big differences until I got older. Yeah. So like now as an adult, I understand that my dad was just doing what he was raised, like what he was taught.
I can understand that, because my dad was the same way, but there was a point where
he wanted better, though, because to a certain extent he got out.
Yeah, to an extent he got out, and he worked his ass off for it. But when it comes to like the trauma and thinking back to it, there was a point where he tried to make that initial handout to me, to where like, hey, we need to get along. And at that point, I think I want to say I was the stubborn one, because I was holding on to all that anger. For me, it was first you took in my mind, it was you took me away from my grandparents, because that's who pretty much raised me there with my mom and my aunts. My aunts are more my sisters than my aunts. Then you marry my mom. Now you're taking my mom away from me, and now you're trying to tell me what to do. So I had all that anger, but he stepped up. I wasn't ready for that step up. So it just delayed and delayed and delayed, Come to find out nowadays, it's like he would actually ask my mom, once I moved out, he was like, well, how's he doing? Is he all right? Started driving, and I went out on the road on my own, and he was all like, he would ask my mom, how's he doing? Where's he at? Is he okay?
I think that as a culture, we're not raised to express love. And so we don't really know how to do it.
I don't want to say that. In my opinion, I think it's love differently.
Well, I don't think they know how to express like affection.
I can see that. The affection, yes, but love,
it's hard love. It's not. Yeah.
It's the hard love. It's the the smack on the back of the head of, hey, pay attention to me.
Yeah, I
You
love
know.
you enough to say something.
Yes, exactly. You know, and it in other people's eyes, that may not be the best way, but it's our way. You know, it's not sitting there going, well, let's see how we can talk about this and how we can fix it. It's like, are we going to fix it or are we just going to have a fucking kumbaya session here?
Yeah.
Well, I can agree to an extent. I guess I saw both ways because, like my dad said, when he had my sister and I, it was more so, what can I do to change? But I mean, I still saw your family, so I still saw that side as well. So, yeah, I can see that. I again, I don't know how to explain it. I can see how my dad was like the Full House dad. Bob Saget, is that his name? Where he would sit me down. He's like, okay, what's wrong? But you know, he wasn't like Bob Saget.
Yeah, I don't think that was really a priority in my household. It was usually that conversation would happen after a physical blow up.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even feel comfortable having that conversation at all because of the physical blow up beforehand.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you see in those sitcoms. You know, it's like something happens and then you see the mom or the dad like, all right, I guess we're having the talk.
Yeah.
You know, and in reality, it's like we need to have it before.
Yeah.
I think I told my dad I wanted to bring him on because I think my dad and I have the best relationship out of my parents. My mom always makes fun of it. She's like, that's your number one parent.
I'll add to it. You know, I'll tell her like, she'll answer for me.
But it's more so because I got to a point where I could sit down with my dad and explain to him like why what he did made me feel this way. And especially because when I was growing up, he was a nice dad. Don't get me wrong. He was like super cool. But when he got into the oil field, everything changed. Unfortunately, that job made him ugly. And it was just because
It's just stress.
he was like I was always upset at the job because it's just I don't know how to explain it.
It was one of those jobs where the money was good. The money was great. The hours were long, which adds up to the money being great. But
How did you say it? You were stressed at the job because of another job.
yeah, it was no matter how much you gave, you still had to give. So it's like you never really had that time to where you can.
Feel like you can recover or recoup.
Yeah, you know, you didn't punch the clock and go away. It was, hey, we got out at 2:00 in the morning. We got to be back at 5. You know, and here I am, and I'm like, I'm frustrated. You know, and I'm not the only one. I know there's men out there and women out there that are the same way. And that I think 8-10 years, Des.
Mm-hmm.
That
I
It
think
weighs
was
on you.
yeah.
It was my middle school and high school.
I had the same situation happen with my last job where I was finding myself coming home angry and irritable and not wanting to talk with my husband and like not wanting to go to family things and just like, I need to work. Like I need to work. I need to bring money in. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then I realized like he brought it to my attention. He's like, is something going on? Like, did I do something? Like you're always angry. You're getting mad at me. Like you need to like, something needs to give.
Yeah. And that's the way I was. I was to the point where like I didn't see it then, but now that I do my own thing and pretty much do what I want, I saw the fear in the girl's eyes. It's like it was the same fear that I saw with my dad, my stepdad, my dad, you know. It was don't piss him off. Don't say something wrong because you're going to piss him off. You know what? We'll just avoid him so we don't piss him off.
We did that a lot.
Yeah.
If we knew my dad was coming home, we'd just go to our room.
You know, there was a lot of times that I'd be home at 8, 9 o'clock, and the girls were in bed. The girls were in their room. You know, and to me at that point, I just saw it as, oh, okay, well, they got school in the morning.
Doing what they're supposed to.
Yeah, but later on, I started realizing when I finally got out of the oil field, that part of the oil field, doing my own thing, I started realizing like I was the problem.
But it was also I think at that point, once he got out, I felt more comfortable talking to him. Because I would try talking to my dad, but again, he was just frustrated and always angry. So if I did tell him, like, Dad, it's because he would just yell at me, or like, I'm thankful he never hit me. I did get a couple of smacks.
Well, on that part, it was more like, what?
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to relax here for the next 4 hours before I got to get up at 2 a.m. And it's, hey, Dad. And I'll tell you, the words out of my mouth were, what?
Yeah.
You know, and I, at that point, too, I was like, I can't.
You don't have anything left to give.
Yeah.
I'm not
Because the work
sure,
took it all.
I'm not sure, like, how my sister is with it, but that I was able to talk to my dad, and, like, now that we understand each other, it's a lot better, obviously. So now I can come to him and tell him, like, I don't like what you said, or maybe you should have tried this differently, you know?
But I think that's what it is with kids when you're growing up. You think it's all about you. Like, you must be doing something to cause it. And I don't think until we become adults ourselves and have our own families where we start to realize the stress and the weight that you carry when you have adult shit.
There's a lot of it to that. It's, I mean, Desi can tell you that I'm not the most computer literate person here at the table, but there are, you know, I think it's one of them was Jordan Peterson that I love hearing his.
Me too. I'm obsessed with him.
Yeah, but I just like hearing his talks, you know. But it's like one of the things I heard. I don't think it was him. It was somebody else. But it's like everybody's concerned about the woman, and I'm not trying to, you know, just say it.
I think he did say something about this.
You know, everybody's worried about her mental health. Everybody's worried about how she feels and what she thinks of herself. You know, and then when they look at a guy, the first thing they say is, well, what does he have to be about?
Man up.
Yeah, it's the man up scenario. And that's great. I'm the same way. Man up, pull your head out of your ass. But in the long run, now that I see it and went through it, it's the stress.
Yeah.
You know, it's the stress. It's the I'm giving them this type of lifestyle, and I got to keep it going.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, how long can I do it? You know, and for me, the lifestyle was great. The girls had whatever they wanted.
We had an intervention for him. Do you remember that? We told him, like, you can leave. We don't want you at this job anymore.
And that's when I ended up doing my own thing, you know. And it was kind of like the same thing Des was at one point when Des was, what, you were probably going into junior high? 5th grade, something like that, when you told me to get off the road?
Yeah.
She's the one that told me, like, I don't want you leaving no more. All right. That day I called my boss and I was like, hey, I'm giving you 2 weeks notice. He's all like, okay. Because he knew. He hated kids. Loved my kids. I don't know what the hell happened there. But as a man, a lot of people, you know, society doesn't realize that we have the stress. We don't show it. You know, there's things that happened this, you know, recently within the last couple of years, you know, that I know my wife was stressed. You know, and one of her remarks one time was, well, you don't even worry about it. It's not that I don't worry about it. I can't show it. I'm not going to show it. Why? Because a lot of people...
when you see someone else struggling, you don't want to put your bullshit. In your
Yeah.
mind, you're calling it your bullshit on them.
You know...
Again, I think that's a culture thing.
I don't think it's just a culture thing. I think it's a...
societal, like...
Yes.
I guess, like,
pressure.
yeah, since, like
Because-
a man type of...
Yeah, it's to me, it's that man thing,
Why
but...
you have anything to worry about? You're supposed to be the provider.
And women
yeah.
are encouraged to tell their husbands, like, go lay it at his feet and, like, let him take
Yeah.
it from there kind of thing.
Yeah, women are like, this is my problem. You know what I mean? I'll admit, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't have the shit I have. You know, Desiree knows that. I'd have a shitload of guns. Living in a one-room apartment in the fucking hellhole somewhere.
Robert fucking tells me he'd be a hoe. If it wasn't for me, he's like, I'd be living with my parents, no rent, and I'd be a hoe.
Well, maybe now, you know, maybe now, but it's just that series of I'm stressing out. Why am I going to let you know about it when you're stressed out? Now to me, it's like one of us has to show composure.
Yeah.
You know, it's bad enough. You know, she know everything me and my wife do, we do together. It's our decision. So everything we've gone through, it's like I know it weighed on her. It weighs on me. But at the same time, I can't let it show because then I don't want her to have that. We're doomed.
Yeah.
We're done. You know. So I think a lot of times, both sides, it doesn't matter what culture you're in, a lot of times you just forget that there's stress that this guy's having that he can't show you. The best scenario I can give is, how would you feel if the people protecting you were scared? How would you feel? Would you have faith in them to protect you? So when the man has that feeling of, okay, I can't handle this. Who does he go to? You know, who is he going to go tell? You know, so it's like, I can't go to you because you're going to break down even worse. You know, so I think a lot of it is just, I don't want to sound chauvinistic, but it's just like, let us vent. You know, every once in a while, it's that, let me get away from here. You know, let me get away and just blow off steam. You know, because we don't have that anymore. You know, we Peterson said it too. You know, it's like man is a person is a creature of violence. Well, we're in a society at this point, we're civilized now.
Yeah.
But we still have that anger to where we need to just,
something needs to get let out of the bottle.
yeah. You know, and society looks at guys like that and they're like, oh my God, he can't be that way. It's like, no, that's the way we are. You know, so at some point we have to control it. And at some point as a man, we got to let it out.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I think you got to trust your partner.
Yeah. Your partner is a big part of it. Because if not, I mean, it's like, how would I feel if Marty turned around and said, hey, girls, guess what happened this weekend? You know, so-and-so was crying all over the fucking, like a little bitch. Well, fuck.
Marty's my mom.
You know, it's just something that needs to be
normalized. I think we need to normalize relying on our partners. Because I know, like, Robert expressed the same thing to me. He's like, I can't tell you if I'm stressed out because he's like, you're handling the big girl stuff. Like, you're doing the bills, and I see how tired you are. You know, you're working, you're helping take care of the dogs. I don't want to tell you what's going on with me. So whenever he does come to me with something, I'm like, it's going to get done. Like, I got it from here. Get behind me. Like in my mind, I'm like, stand behind me. I'll fix this. Like,
you know, and that's good. You know, you have to have that partner.
Yeah.
You know.
But having him trust me enough to do something for him is a big issue. It takes a long time. Like, I'll give you an example. I know that we had a falling out with his brother before I got married. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until like 4 or 5 years later where Robert came to me like upset and was like, this thing with my brother has been eating at me this entire time. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is years later. If he had came to me
when you know, at the beginning of the problem, you know,
we could have fixed it then. Of course, like I immediately went to, well, I know how to fix it. I'm going to go fix this for you. I'm going to do this. So I went and I took care of it. And when we kind of like, now that we're kind of in the groove of seeing his brother and everything, he was like so thankful that like, he's like, I'm so thankful that you said something and we were able to get this fixed. And I know how hard it is with you with like certain members of my family. And it meant a lot to me for you to do this. And I was like, if you would just tell me what you had wanted, I will do anything for you.
I think a lot of it is like, as a man, we're the fixers. Yeah. We're the guy that,
It's how you're brought up too.
Yeah, it's our, we're brought up to be like this. You fix the problems. So it's like, for example, I don't know how many times my wife and I have doing something at the house. I'm frustrated. I'm ready to throw wrenches and sockets and.
Everyone knows we're like, when is it gonna happen?
Yeah, and here comes my wife. What if you do it like this? What do you mean if I do it like, here I am getting angry, and she's like, just listen. And then I'll do it, and I'm like, oh, it worked. Thanks.
Yeah.
And there's the problem again is of thanks. Oh, it's not, and I'm the biggest person that does this. Thanks. Not, thanks, babe. We make a good team. Every once in a while you might hear that come out of my mouth. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, fuck, I can't believe she had to fucking fix this shit for me.
Robert said the same thing when a woman came to fix our AC unit after he couldn't fix it. And she fixed it in like 30 minutes. And he was like, like giving me like the death stares. Like, I can't believe this happened.
It's the culture, our culture. It's the machismo, if you want to call it. I'm the man. I'm going to fix everything. And it's like, in reality, bro, there's a lot of shit we can't fix.
Yeah.
We can try. I can tell you right now, I opened the hood of my pickup or my rig, and my wife's first words are, "What'd you break?" And I'm like, give me 10 minutes and I'll figure it out what I broke,
I think there's, for me anyways, I'm not like real big on the feminist movement.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that we see each other as equals because there's strengths you have that I don't have. And why is that a disadvantage to me? If we work together, I have those strengths now too.
I'm trying to be a stay-at-home housewife. I'm trying to go back to 50.
I think we talked about that with our episode, a couple episodes back, where I was like, I have a vision of myself as a wife that isn't this hyper competitive, hyper vigilant person who's so dominating that I want to be. And I feel like a part of me dims myself and my own presence to fit that for my husband. Robert never said that that's what he wanted.
Right.
It's just in my mind, I think that I need to be passive and quiet and meek.
It depends because I love my wife. And I'll say it again, if it wasn't for her, I'd be stuck in a fucking one-room apartment,
Sleeping with his gun, his shotgun.
Yeah,
That's his lover.
Exactly.
Shotgun.
I got them hoes, But it's like, we all, in the back of our mind, as a guy, I'll say, yeah, man, I would love to have come home and dinner on the table and the house clean and all this. But in reality, do I really want that? Do I want, oh, hey, honey, what'd you do today? Well, I cleaned the toilets again today.
Yeah.
Here's your fucking meatloaf. And I don't. Everybody has their own wants, how they want their spouse, how they want their, oh, I want my wife to be this. I want my wife to be that. I said, well, shit, we all want our wives to be fucking the next Playboy model.
The 80-20 thing.
Yeah, it's like, and it's not going to happen.
I think it's something that should be talked about before anything happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we don't have to be equals. We can just be ourselves and it's going to be accepted.
Yeah. I wanted to put in that because of how my dad raised me, again, he only had 2 girls. So I am very independent, and Andrew knows that. But when Andrew and I were dating, I made it a point that I wanted everything 50-50 because that's what I saw in my household. If my mom didn't want to cook that night, then my dad was going to cook that night.
Yeah.
So,
if not, it was like, hey, what do I want to eat?
Or it was sandwiches. That's why I love sandwiches so much.
Yeah.
I feel like I wanted to be a little more specific on my last episode about weddings. I mean, marriage too, because I made a comment that I don't want to be his equal. I want to be treated better than him.
You know what? That's not bad because
I don't think it's bad at all. But Robert's like, I can't believe you said that. And I'm like, Robert, I treat you amazing. I was like, he doesn't even shop for his own clothes anymore. Like he says that something is uncomfortable. A week later, magically new clothes are sitting on his bed, new shoes, he wants something random. I just transfer the money to his account. I don't treat him poorly.
Oh no, my
she does not treat you poorly.
No, she doesn't. No, I was gonna say, I was like, I go to her for money.
Because we
like-
organize it and we keep it so that there's always something in the account. Because if I
Yeah.
left it to Robert, if it's there, he thinks he can spend it, and that's not necessarily true. Like
That's a guy thing, I would say. You know, like there's $100. Well, I'm gonna go buy $100 of some shit.
because we were comparing our marriages last time, like just the structure of it. We weren't saying like one was bad versus the other. But Des and Andrew had kind of indicated that like for them, Des was kind of like the final say when a decision needed to be made. I don't do that. Like Robert does that. And because I give him this like authority over the family or over our family, I expect him to be better.
Yeah, I think that'll come with a little more maturity. You know, it's known women mature faster than boys, than
Also
men.
talking.
Now I think he understands it. Like I think that I get your point about the maturity because I think that he feels the pressure so much sometimes that no decision is made. But then I make him see that through. I don't make the decision after no decision has been made. Like it's gonna stay no.
Yeah, you kind of force him to see that. Okay, this is what the decision is. You're not changing it. You're not.
Yeah.
You know.
I like that saying. The man is the head of the household, but the woman's the neck.
Yeah,
And shows him what she wants.
Oh, that's the truth.
Yeah,
I
I
ain't gonna
prop
lie.
that motherfucker up. Like he's gonna like I told Robert like when we got married you promised me things and I'm gonna hold you to it. And if you can't do it, you need to tell me because you promised this. I'm giving you it back. If I'm not, I expect the same back. Like I want him to tell me like you're not meeting this expectation that we had between each other, the agreement.
Like,
But
like
it's good to have expectations.
it's good to have expectations, but I don't.
Maybe not like
Don't
big
let
ones.
don't let your expectations overwhelm them. You know?
No, like if he's feeling overwhelmed or like I'm not saying I don't have any patience for him. Like if I like this whole decision thing, I did that because I know how indecisive he is.
Yeah.
And I want him to feel in control of his own life. And I have no problem taking a back seat so he can shine.
Right.
And I think that's so important for people who are in there, like, and especially in this new age of feminism, they like the woman needs to shine. We need to prop her up. I want my husband to shine. I want him to be propped up. I want him to be elevated by my presence.
I think the whole feminism thing has just gotten out of control on it.
Yeah.
You know, it to me, it's not about the woman anymore. It's more of, look what we did.
Like
Look,
proving you're better.
Yes. You know, and in reality, like Des said, you know, I brought them up to be, you know, I reared them to be independent. I would always tell them, you know what, you don't be a woman that needs a man. Be a woman that a man needs or a man wants.
I don't know how to cook, so I'm not sure how that's going.
But I think that expectation is a cultural thing
It is well
for women.
I think we talked about it when we had the boys on. Now try it with beer. But Andrew and I are pretty 50-50 with it. But I wanted to bring it back to expectations because we don't have, obviously Andrew and I don't have big expectations for each other. I just want all the bills to be paid and us to have some money to play with. That's it. But I guess like one of our biggest expectations is if we do decide to have kids, I don't want to put them in daycare and I don't want to leave them with family like just because I can. I said one of us has to be like a stay-at-home parent.
You can do it with your mom. And
I
then
know, my mom
I'll
has
take over.
My mom has like multiple, and his mom. They've both said like we'll stop working so we can be the daycare, and I don't want that. You know.
I expect it. Like, I don't expect my mom to quit her job or anything, but I expect that like the way I was raised, I expect family to step up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I understand that family will step up obviously because we have a big family, intermediate family.
That's the way it should be. You know, when you have a family that doesn't want to step up, that's kind of like saying like you don't matter.
Yeah.
And I can see that on both sides of my family.
You can see that on my side of the family, to be honest.
Yeah. Because on my
Honestly,
mom's,
I can see it on both.
because on my mom's side, at least like my intermediate family, you know, like everyone we always see that's always over. If my nephew needs to spend the night somewhere, if one of my nephews needs to spend the night somewhere, he has like 4 different places to stay, no matter what. But on my dad's side,
Yeah, you might as well just get in my garage. I'll put a mattress out there for you.
And it's not that we don't like his side. It's just more so
The level of commitment has to be across the board. To me, like if you want me to call you family, I want to know you're just as committed to my success in my life as I am to yours.
right. And I guess accountability wise, my dad's side of the family does not know what that word means.
Yeah, I think it's my side of the family is more of the
Be thankful.
yeah. Be thankful we showed up. It's like, oh, okay.
It's expected for you to be there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I do feel bad about with Des and Allie is that they've never had that relationship with my parents, where it's truly grandma, grandpa.
Yeah.
Even though my dad doesn't like to be called grandpa.
Pop. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just
It's
making a joke.
uncle.
I'm just making-
He's uncle.
It's uncle.
It's uncle. But it when it comes back to the accountability. My mom at one point told me, "Oh, I think you and Marty should have another child." And the first phrase out of my mouth was like, "Why?" Well, and her response was, "Well, because I miss so much with Des and Allie." And I said, "Well, that's not my fault."
Yeah.
Imagine if they did have another child, how
Yeah.
much Alyssa and I would envy.
Well, I don't even think it would be that because I don't see my mom changing.
And I also don't think it necessarily like you would envy that person because like
Yeah.
like me and my siblings, we were all raised differently, like different levels of exposure to my dad, sometimes different dads in some cases. And I don't envy my sister for not having the same upbringing I did. What I do envy is like her spirit.
No, Allie straight up said, she was like, "Yeah, I'll take that kid out."
I guess maybe not envy for me. It's just more so, it's a really good scene from The Good Place. I love that show. Her mom, deadbeat mom, she had another kid, and she said it. She was like, "I'm mad that I didn't get that mom, the mom that made me sandwiches for snacks because I was hungry. If I was hungry, I had to look for fries off the floor of the car, like shit like that, Because that's how I feel. I understand, like, on my dad's side, she wasn't there for my sister and I for another reason. But I still think she needs to take accountability.
I agree with that, but I'm not going to force it.
Yeah.
If you have to, it's not genuine. It's not going to solve
Exactly.
anything.
Yeah, because to me that goes back to like at the beginning when I said, you move on.
And I guess that's what I've done. I've just moved on. I only go to like big events. And even at that, I'm not even going anymore because of what she said.
And I also think that there's another toxic trait that I see kind of in our culture is the expectation that the person you hurt is going to fix it. So like, for instance, my dad has made a comment to me one time. I think that kind of like started this whole like me reevaluating the situation where he was wanting to see one of my brothers. And I was like, he doesn't want to see you. Like, it's not going to happen. And he was like, well, why not? And I was like, there's too much baggage in front of the door. Like, he's not going to walk through it because there's a bunch of crap in front of him. And he was like, well, tell him to kick it out of the way. And I was like, it's not his responsibility to move what you left there.
On that part, I would have to say I do agree to an extent with your dad because I think both parties have to come together. And because in my case, it was both of us that had to come and talk. But knowing your brothers as little as I do, but looking at them, it's like they're not gonna, they'll understand more as they get older. Right now, the pain is still fresh.
I'm not sure on your end, only because Andrew and I did have a conversation about it. I told him that I didn't want to see your parents anymore. There was a point where I didn't even, like, my dad and I had a big talk because I was like, I don't want to even invite them to my wedding because that's just how I feel about it. And Andrew told me that I needed to put more effort in. And I was really upset with him because I'm the only one that puts that effort in.
And I've seen it. That's why, going back to, where me and Des can talk, is like I've told her, if, I don't I'm not hurt by how you feel because I see it.
I
You know, to me, she's put the effort. My parents haven't. My mom hasn't. You know, it hurts, but at the same time, it's like, you know what, life goes on. You know, I'm sorry if you want to, you know, people want to consider me cold hearted or, you know, whatever, but her and Andrew don't have time for that. They don't have time to, you know, how do I make them understand that I'm hurt, or how do I make them understand that, you know, it's not just me that needs to change, or, you know, you're not going to change somebody that doesn't want to do it.
right.
Yeah, I think that's what the whole thing with my brother is. My dad has not changed.
So I don't.
He wants my brother to be over
Right.
what happened without
Yeah,
having to
and
say or
it's-
do any work.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you said both needs to put effort. He's not putting the
Yeah.
effort.
He's
even if
expecting
the
it.
even if
he's
the brothers
yeah.
wanted to.
But it needs to, like I said, it needs to be both.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
even
I see what you're saying.
You know, it's if it's your dad coming to your brother and saying, "Hey, look," even if it's just, we need to talk. And if they just sit there, look at each other for the first 15, 20 minutes, nothing gets said. Well, that one little barrier of, we actually sat down.
I think there's a difference though with my situation with my dad versus yours, because I had this same conversation with my father-in-law, because he kind of made, my brother said something detrimental to my father in front of him, and he was like, "That's your dad. You shouldn't do that." I don't know good dad. I don't know what giving a shit about me felt like to
Yeah.
my dad. I don't have that experience.
Yeah, and see, and that's hard. It's like, how do you? Because the way me and my dad were, you know, I didn't feel that. I honestly, you know, thought I was the problem. I thought he didn't want me. In reality, he was trying to groom me to be the best man that he could make me become.
That was not my dad's intention.
You know,
Like I think what you're describing to me anyway sounds like he was just loving you hard, like because he wanted the best for you, and this is how he thought was going to happen.
But along with that loving hard was the ass whoopings and the constant beatings and the wrong way. But it wanted the right thing, but we didn't go about it the right way. You know, it's like, hey, Disneyland's over there. Well, we're gonna go over this fucking cliff and see what happens where we land.
Yeah, but
you know?
I think that you're expressing there was an intention.
Yeah,
of being positive.
In my case, yes, there was that intention.
And that for me, I can tell you with 100% certainty, because I looked for that intention and
it wasn't there.
It's not there. It was never about us. It was always about him, what he could get from the situation, what he could coerce out of us, my
Right.
mother, gaslighting, manipulation. There was a lot of addiction involved in it. It was about him. And I think if I had felt, or my brothers had felt, that there was something that he was trying to show us or trying to teach us, instead of using us as bargaining chips all the time,
Yeah,
it would be easier to get to a place where we could go and sit down together.
yeah.
And-
that in that case, that's going to take a lot of time. A lot of time.
And I think
that's up to your brothers.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
my brothers are, I think we're all at a point where like what I said, I think in the last episode we recorded, we all came to the realization that it doesn't matter how much we love this person, we're not going to change anything. We're not going to fix anything.
It's almost. I'm not gonna compare the two, but it's like Des. She can give all the love to my mom, but she's not seeing the same love coming back.
Yeah.
You know, in your case, it sounds like y'all can give all this love to your dad and try to understand him, and he's just like, I don't care. You know, and myself would be like, then I move on.
Well, I guess I have moved on
I think,
because I have my Thea.
yeah,
She knows. She listens to our podcast. She'll know.
yeah. No, and like I said, you know, it hurts that Des and Allie don't have that relationship with their real grandma. You know, that does hurt, but I don't blame them. You know, I don't blame them. You know, it's a, you know, like, what if we brought in another child? For what? For you, you know, the way I saw it with my mom and told her, I said, for what? For you to just like forget about her? You had the opportunity. You had 18 fucking years to figure out what you want to do with Des.
Yeah.
The one time, I think that y'all only spent the night once, right?
Yeah, and I got sick, and that was the last time we spent the night.
She got the mumps. I got blamed for it. And I'm like, what the fuck did I do?
But I was going to say that was the last time we spent the night. And I remember telling my dad how much I loved her pancakes. Because she made like these real fluffy ones. And I never got to taste them again. I didn't really care about it. Until my dad's brother brought his kids. And they were able to taste them. And they got to taste them every weekend.
Yeah.
And I think that's when like it started like, well, why can't I come over anymore? And she would tell us no. Like, well, can Allie and I spend the night too? No. There's not enough room for you. But she would make room for them.
And it did hurt. And for, like, in my case, even with the girls, with my parents, I was like, I can cut them off.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would change anything.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. I can cut them off, Shit, I cut them off for 6-7 years. I think that the first time, I think I would only call them for like, hey, Merry Christmas.
That's like where I'm at right now with my dad. Like I'll call him at Christmas or Thanksgiving, and if I happen to see him at someone else's family function, I'll say hi.
Yeah, and see, that's the way me and my parents were, and it kind of sucks because that's my mom, that's my dad. Everybody said, well, that's your stepdad. No, it's my dad. He stepped up. It was hard, it was wrong, but he stepped up. He did the best that he knew. But when you get a person, from what I'm hearing, like your dad, I can't see, hearing now more about it, I can't see a change. To sound ugly and to sound rude, I'm sorry, but this is a case of...
It is what it is. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, I can't... The things that I do or say is going to change anything. Like, he's not going to somehow wake up tomorrow and be able to take responsibility and be honest. And I think that's what really gets me. It's like, because for me, I can hang out with people who are assholes because that's who they are. They don't put on airs about it. They are who they are. Just take me as I am.
That's why we're always together.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. Like, I get along with everybody because I don't give a shit. Like, if you are an asshole, just be a fucking asshole. That's okay with me. Because then you're being you, and I can fuck with you. But I can't fuck with whoever you're putting this mask up with me, because then it feels inauthentic and you're lying to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a pain. From my experience, it's going to be a painful step when y'all decide individually, I'm done. Because you're not, like I said, you're not going to change somebody that doesn't want to change.
Or doesn't realize that they even need to, or whatever you want to say it is. Like
that's a true. Well, why are they mad? I don't know why they're mad. It's like, dude, you're the reason.
Yeah.
Well, why am I the reason? I'm fine.
They just need to get over it. Like, and I see that a lot, and like that's how my dad's family was raised. And to a certain extent, I think I was forgiving him until I realized he raised me the way he did, and I don't do that. Mm-hmm. So there is a way.
There's always a way. There's always that. To break the cycle. And that's where, in the beginning I said, at what point do you change?
Yeah.
Everybody comes out with, well, his dad was abusive and that's why he became abusive. It's like, okay, but at what point do you sit back and say, hey, this is wrong? It's like a child. Children are innocent, but at a certain age, whether they're taught it or not, they know right from wrong. Yeah. It's like, I don't know how many times the nephew, we know which one, will stand in front of the TV pushing buttons, and you're like, stop it. And they know it's wrong. Because why? Because he's sitting there or standing there with that finger looking at you while you do it. Then Uncle Abram comes along and goes, you better sit your fucking ass down before I beat your ass. Mm-hmm. So it's that. It's the when. And a lot of people with this issue, in my mind, my opinion, they don't ever want to get to that when.
Yeah.
When do I cut that person off? When do I just turn away and say, you know what, you're on your own?
I think Des and I talked about that too. You have to set your own limit. Like, I can't tell you when it's enough.
Exactly. I mean, hearing about yours now and a little bit of, from the past talks that we've had, a lot of it is like, I can tell you and tell you. cut them off. Cut them off. But until you're ready, until you really see it, that's the choice you'll make, or the choice that you decide to make.
Honestly, it's that epiphany moment.
Yeah, there you go.
I told my dad, and I said it in the last podcast. It was when she was what is it? Comparing me to someone younger than me.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, I didn't do that.
No. She was comparing me to another cousin on how much better she was than me, even though we're at different points in our lives. And then telling me I wasn't the favorite. Again, I'm not mad that I'm not the favorite. I fucking know that. It's that she said it in front of everybody in the family. Everyone that was there. And I had to sit there and just take it because I didn't want to make a scene. Because they'll tell not that they'll tell my dad and I'll get in trouble. They get mad at him. Because why is she talking to me that way?
And I'll tell you, if they would have told me that, I'd be like, well, why did you tell her that? Why would you hurt somebody like that intentionally?
Yeah.
I know my dad has my back. It's just more so I don't want to make a scene. Is that the word I'm looking for?
I think you're not looking to start a fight.
Yeah.
You know.
I have
Because you go back more often than I do.
I have the tendency to be like, it's not worth it to me to clap back.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's where I'm at this point. What's the point? I could say it and my dad will have my back, but what's the point? What is it going to do for me?
Yeah.
I think the true marker for me to be over with it is that I don't fight anymore. Like, I won't put even that energy to fight to fix it anymore.
Yeah, but a lot of times I think you have to pull that plug.
Well, there's some times where I can't because that person is intertwined with a certain group that I see and spend a lot of time with, and I can't ask the whole group to separate from this person. So I'm like, they can be as ugly and toxic as they want. I just don't have to engage with it anymore.
I see.
I can see that, and I understand that, because like you'll limit how long you're there. You know, you become that person that's, oh, hey, I'm here. You know, hey, but that's not the person you want to be.
No, but I think that there's certain situations where something else has to matter more. Like, I'll be honest, it's with Robert's family. Like, there are certain times I don't want to be around them. Like, they've said something to me or they've made a comment that they thought was funny or that they didn't think was a big deal, or it's their honest opinion. And I don't want to sit there and have to listen to it being said to me. Mm-hmm. But I can't ask Robert not to be around his family.
I don't think it's asking Robert for that. I think it's more of I didn't like that. This is the problem I had. You know, because there's times that where my wife has said that. And, you know, and she'll be like, well, you didn't stand up for me. Well, I didn't hear it.
No, he heard it.
You know.
He just doesn't, for him, because he's already disengaged from this, he doesn't think it's worth it to talk about it, because he, to a certain extent, has already
passed it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, because even with Marty, it's like my dad has the big thing of like, well, why doesn't Marty call me? You know, we go out to the property and check on the animals and stuff like that, or Marty will go real quick with Allie, and she'll send me pictures of, you know, what hay they need or where they're at. And my dad was like, well, why doesn't Marty call me? And I'll tell him the truth. Marty doesn't like to talk. Marty's a 5-minute fucking phone call with her dad, you know, but a 3-hour one with her mom. You know, even with me, it's like, hey, what are you doing? Okay, love you, bye. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm going to be here at work for another fucking 12 fucking hours. You know, so at some point, you'll have to decide when that is. Because this might hurt, but don't look back anymore. You know, because you keep looking back, you're never going to get past your hurt. You're never going to get past your anger.
I think I've gotten past old shit. It's they continue to do it because it's not getting addressed. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. Just sit over there and I'll sit over here. Like, but I don't want to cause an issue.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like you're not fixing yourself. It's kind of like you're constantly putting yourself in that position of, I'm going to stand over here while they're all shooting at me, but I'm just out of the line where I'm not going to get hit, but I can still be pissed off. So
I'm not angry with them anymore. Like if they needed something, they're gonna get it. Like if Robert says that I need to do X, Y, and Z, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. Like I'm not angry with them. It's just I think I'm at a point where the whole point, like where I'm like at it with him is I was raised a certain way and I have certain expectations of what family is and what family does, and when they're not meeting that expectation, why am I giving them energy?
Do you think it's also... So I grew up two ways. I grew up that you would love your in-laws or you would hate them. Did you grow up that way?
No. My mother, and she still does it to this day, and I love you, Mom. But it's always, you keep coming, you keep trying, you keep doing, you keep being a good person, you keep doing everything you're supposed to. You don't stop, regardless of how you're being treated, regardless of what's being said to you about you, anything. You don't stop being a good person. And my whole thing is, it doesn't make me a bad person to say this hurts.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a step back and I'm not going to keep putting energy the way I was in the past and making those relationships work. Like, I think I said it in a previous episode. There was a quote that I'm like obsessed with that Tupac said. It was, it's just because we're no longer friends doesn't mean we're enemies. I'm above that. Like, I want you to eat, just not at my table.
Right.
I want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. I don't have any bad intentions towards them. Like, if they're doing good, I'll be your biggest cheerleader. But I'm not going to invite you to come into my home. I'll go out to eat with us.
Yeah. Knowing that I'm inviting you, but I know you're going to put me down.
Yeah.
I
Or
know you're going to tear me apart.
That's my toxic trait. Andrew just recently brought that up. I can forgive people. I can't forget.
And I'm like that
normal.
with people that I love. And there's things that the people I'm talking about have done and said to my husband. He might be over it. I'm not over that shit. Because to me, that's my person. That's my family.
Yeah. But see, in my view, when you dwell on stuff like that, like Dad said, you can forgive. You don't forget. But if you dwell on it, you're never going to get past it. You know, yes, that's your man. That's your husband. That's your best friend, you know.
It's my boy.
Yeah,
Yep,
you know.
my guy.
That's your guy, you know. But at the same time, it's like, why does it hurt? Why am I letting it hurt me all the time? When in reality, look at it as like, who gives a shit what they think?
It could also be like how Mary said how she grew up.
Well,
Why did they do that? I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person. I did all this. I did X, Y, and Z for them. Why did they do this to me? Because I grew up differently. My dad's on this podcast right now, so y'all know how I grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up with either they take accountability or I say something.
yeah, Des is, and I like it that we have that relationship of, you know, are you sure you're going to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? You know, there's been times recently like, Dad, I don't think you should do that. Are you sure? You know, but back to what you were saying is like, why do you give them the time of day in your mind for that?
I think that's what I'm saying. I don't do that anymore because I'm like, I disengage. Like, I'm not going to go and invite them and go places.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here dwelling on like, I used to dwell on like, why can't they be like my family? Why can't this feel more natural to me, more comfortable to me?
Well, in reality, I mean, when you look at, and you'll probably have listeners that are going to disagree and agree. You know, there was a study, and I'm not going to even try to remember where I saw it or what.
Google it, bitches.
I know, right?
Good, because it's hard researching.
No, I mean, I know I've heard it where, you know, cultures help themselves to a point, but the Hispanic, Mexican culture, whatever you want to call it, you know, the first thing, you know, you get that one person that does good, and, you know, George Lopez said it best. Oh, man, now he thinks he's better than us. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not that I think I'm better than you. It's just I want better. You know, the Hispanic culture, whatever you want to call it, it's instead of you clapping and being their cheerleader, hey man, you did badass, dude, you're doing good or whatever, it's automatically, oh, he thinks he's better than us. She thinks she's better than us. It's like, no.
And I agree how Mary said in the beginning, it's in silence too.
Yeah.
Because it's the, I'm so proud of you, or I'm so proud of you when it's to your face, but as soon as you get home, can you believe that guy?
Yeah,
You know what that reminds me
exactly.
of? Why we stopped going to that church.
Oh, yeah.
We used to go to this church. I didn't even like that church to begin with. I got multiple ant bites there. But my parents were doing good, and we got a new truck, or they got a new truck. And
No, that was your grandmother's church.
yeah, that was the one I told you. You should be tithing more.
Yeah. And this is that we had just started going to that church just because my grandmother wanted us to go. And it was like, it's like Desiree said, in silence, but yet I'm not the type that's going to sit there and take it. It's like we're there and he's like, oh, you should tithe more and you should give this more. And then all of a sudden it was like, there's a big brand new Dodge truck sitting in the driveway, somebody. And I'm like, motherfucker, that's me. I don't even go to your church, and he brings up religion into it and, oh, God doesn't want you to have this. God doesn't, wait. And my grandmother's sitting next to me going, shh, shh. It's like, no, I'm not going to take this crap, especially from this guy, in the middle of church. Dude, you're telling me I can't have this, but yet you're a preacher and you're supposed to be preaching about the love of God, but you're telling me you got an $1,000 Armani suit where your fucking people here are barely making $30,000-$40,000 a year? Ain't nobody got a brand new car in here but me.
Accountability part 2.
And then the thing is like, that's what, in my view, happens in the Hispanic Mexican culture. It's never, man, you're doing good. Right away, it's, well, you're better than us. It's the proverbial stab in the back.
Yeah.
You're doing good, but what do you mean?
What are you doing for the family?
Yeah, what are you doing for us? It's like, oh, you made more money? Well, what's in it for us?
I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
How did you handle the church thing?
We left.
That's what I'm saying about my situation with Robert's family. They are saying things to me. They're hurting me. And I'm not leaving because I'm not going to do that to my partner.
The one thing I will tell you is we left, but we were never part of that church.
I don't think I'm going to be honest, Abram.
You don't feel like you're part of the family there.
I've never been a part of the family.
Well, we talked about it off the podcast. Mary has said it multiple times to me. She feels more family here than with her actual in-laws.
I will give you advice, and this is only from me. This is my advice. If you're feeling that way, I would clear the air.
Oh, I have many times.
And
And that's part of the issue that I don't think that we're ever going to get past it, because I'm going to be honest, that's not respected over there. It's just not. I'm causing an issue by speaking up and not fitting in with the...
I honestly think it's because she's Mary. That's it. Mary is... at least like if you're outside of their relationship, Mary wears the pants.
Well, I mean,
that ugly saying.
Well, it's the same thing with me. I mean, my wife wears the pants. I wear the pants. She just tells me which ones to put on. There's no difference.
I walk around in them, but she told me what ones to put on.
Exactly. You're like, hey, you're wearing the pants, but these are the ones you're wearing on. Honestly, it's clear the air. Clear the air, whether it hurts them or not. And explain to Robert before you do that.
I have, Abram. We'll talk after. I think it's just for me, and Robert, even like after like a recent thing that happened, he came to me, like I came to him and I told him what happened, and he was like, why are you still trying? Like he straight up told me, he's like, why are you still trying? At this point, he goes, Mary, after a year, okay, they're getting adjusted to you. But we're going on 8 years in November.
And I know why you're doing it, because that's your husband's family. You're still making it. It's the same thing with Marty. Marty's not I can tell you right now, if I told Marty, hey, You can go stand in the desert for 24 fucking hours, or you can come with me to my parents. Marty's gonna be like, I'll be in the desert, pick me up on the way home. You know, and she does it because it's me. You know, and Robert's the same way, and you're the same way. But
do you expect Marty to like call all the time to see how they're doing?
No.
Or that's what Robert
No.
was trying to tell me. Like, you don't need to keep trying to put that olive branch out there anymore.
And he's right. You know, it's the same thing as how many times, and it's going to sound like I'm getting after you, but I'm not. But it's how many times are you putting that branch out there and not getting nothing back? You know, how many times are you going to do that before you realize I can't fix this? They don't want to fix it. I've tried. My husband has tried. They just don't, and say, I'm done. You know, and honestly, that's what I think you need to do is just, I'm done. My life revolves around me, my husband, and the people that I want around us. You said it in one of your previous podcasts, was your circle.
Yeah.
Well, your circle is just about to get a little bit smaller, because why do you? Here it goes again. Why do you want, one, that negativity in there? Two, why do you want to keep dwelling on something that is constantly becoming a problem?
I think that's where I'm at now. Like, I think that was one of my biggest problems coming into like my mental health journey, was that like feeling like I wasn't enough, like the inadequacy. And then like having Robert, like, because Robert won't say anything one way or the other. Like, you know how Robert is.
Yeah.
He's not going to say anything against them. He's not going to say anything for them. It's neutral.
He plays devil's advocate very well.
Yeah,
and
or close to the chest. Like,
Yes.
he's very close to the chest with how he feels about it. And like, it wasn't until the recent thing that had happened, because like we had put some separation. And then when something recently had happened, he was like, why are you still putting in effort? Like, I thought we were over that. Like, I thought we were done with that.
See, he thought y'all were done with it, but it still weighed on you.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to tell
But it's
you.
because he didn't say.
But you know
like,
what?
I didn't feel validated by him because of how close he plays things to the chest to say, okay, we've had enough. Because to me, because of him, I have to leave that door open because of him.
Okay, but when it comes to the validation part,
I gotta work on that. I gotta work on that. It's one of my what is it? My toxic trait is that I don't validate myself. And what is it? I'm Mary. And
When's the last time you talked about it with him? That you actually said, like,
after the last incident.
Why? Like, I'm saying, like, I don't know how to explain it. Is he okay going over without you?
He won't go.
So
then that's something he'll have to deal with.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
is that something that?
Because then it
that
weighs
you
on
can tell
me
him?
if he doesn't.
But
Because then I'm like, it's my responsibility to make sure he's there. I know it's not right, but that's what my mind does.
Yeah.
But
At
see,
least, like, coming from us, it's none of this is your fault.
yeah, it's not, and you're putting stress and stuff on you that you don't need.
So, Mary, what is Robert's insight on it? Like, have you actually asked him what he thinks about the situation?
So I did recently. And so he told me he's already made his choice with how we're going to handle it. Because like I said, he does, like, even though I'm louder than he does still lead our family. And he's like, I've already made my choice. I told you. He's like, if you're not happy, we're not going. And I was like, okay, but what does that mean? He goes, exactly what I just said, Mary. You're unhappy with the situation. We are not going. He's like, you forget, I don't fuck with people who don't fuck with you. He's like, so they're being mean to you and it's gotten to the point where you can't even sit in the same room as them? It's done for both of us. He's like, I'm not going to go somewhere that you're uncomfortable. He goes, we're one person. I'm not going to allow someone to make you feel uncomfortable and still grace them with my presence. He's like, I've made my choice. I'm fine if you tell me, no, I don't want to go. That's fine. He's like, well, we're not going to go. But for me, because then I started thinking about, like, why don't I just say, no, I don't want to go? But I think that comes down to, because I have a safeguard. Because when I grew up, like I've told you guys a little bit, I felt like I felt like the adults and other people in my life did what was easier for them and not what was best for me a lot of the time. So like one of my safe checks for myself is like, is this a want or a need? Like I want them to include me. I want to feel like a part of the family. Do I really need that? No, because I get that here. I get that with my mom's family. I don't need that from them. What I need from them is for Robert to have a good relationship that he defines as a good relationship. Because I define it as like the way we are over here with my mom's family. We show up for each other. There was one time there was a comment that someone made to me. Well, I show up when something's wrong. Like, you can call me when something's wrong. I don't want you just here when something's wrong. Because if you haven't been here when all the good things are happening, and because the bad shit happens once every, couple months, maybe once a year.
Yeah.
So if you just show up then, I don't have enough of a relationship with you for you to have any comfort to me when something wrong happens. I don't fucking know you. Why would I call you? So this is a want for me. I want them to be a certain type of way, like the way my family is. I expect the same thing, but I don't necessarily need that because I get it from other people. And Robert's the same way. He doesn't need that relationship with them because, I'm going to be honest, it's just deteriorated to a point where he's so used to being without it, he doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
So all he needs is that limited interaction. Like for him to be like, I showed up. You can't say I just disengaged. And that's good enough for him. So that's going to have to be good enough for me.
Honestly, it takes time because that's how I am with my dad's side of the family. When I was little, obviously I had to go. But now being an adult, I can understand now that they don't want me there. So why do I have to keep going?
Yeah, and it still hurts. Like, I'm still hurt even if he were to ask me to go. My feelings are still going to get hurt.
Yeah.
But is it enough of a, blow to me for me to not be respectful of what he needs? No, because it's just a want. I'm being hurt because my wants aren't being met, not because my needs aren't being met.
I don't think you have to see it that way, or you should see it that way. Excuse me. I think it's the fact that Robert said it's you two. I think here we all have kind of like the same dynamic when it comes to that. My wife doesn't necessarily want to go over there, but she'll go because I ask her. Desiree, I understand her issue with it, but at the same time, like I said previously, my mom hasn't put the effort in. Granted, we're not when they were young kids, we weren't here's your granddaughter, bye. We never did that. That's our kid. Where my brother, hell, he dropped the kids off for 2-3 days and not even call to see how they're doing. But, it happens.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's a choice that he'll make. He's going to make it whether it hurts him or if he's fine with it.
Yeah, he says he's fine with it just because he's gotten used to that this is what it is.
I think, too, maybe it's because he's also seen the fact that, like we talked about in the previous episode, was the constant I'm trying, we're trying, and we're just not
good enough.
Yeah. We're putting the effort, but you're not. You're constantly talking shit. You're constantly berating me. You're constantly ignoring me. It's like, okay, well then, you know what? Forget it.
Yeah.
Why am I going to continue? That's where, whether you agree with it or not, that's the point of why. It's that, like you just said, that person that comes only when shit hits the fan. What, did you only come for that?
Yeah.
Where's the rest of you?
It feels inauthentic to me.
Exactly.
When they just show up when shit's wrong. Because then it's like, are you here to help me or are you here to watch me burn?
Yeah. And me personally, I see it as, for me, I think Desiree always saw me, or in our family dynamic with my family, it was, I'm the one you called when shit hit the fan. I'm the one that has to go and fix this shit. So to me, it's like, I have that mentality of, it's going to happen or it's not. I'm not going to sit here and babysit you. I'm not going to sit here and, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right, when I'm looking at the scenario and going, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I think that
should be like the accountability part.
Yeah. And I think that I'm holding them accountable though, because I am going to start putting the boundary of like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to volunteer my time anymore. I'm not going to volunteer like extra stuff. Like I think we're already working to me on a bare minimum. And this incident, the last time that happened, it was when I stepped out of my boundary. Like I did a little more than I would typically. And I like, you touched it, it burned. Now we're going to go back. So obviously we're not there yet. So let me back this up again.
And the hard part, is like you give that extra try and it burns you and you're like, oh, why did I do that in the first place?
Yeah. And I'm okay with like the trial and error. I think that because of the way I was raised, there was a lot of trial and error all the time to kind of see like how far we could, like almost like expectations. Like you get your hopes up that the person's going to somehow change overnight and then they get dashed and like, it's okay, we're going to try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm okay with that. But I think that Robert's whole point with me is like, you tried. You can't, no one can say you didn't try. And it's okay to say, we're good. We're gonna keep it here. We're not we're not going to the barbecue that's random on a Saturday night for no reason. We're not gonna call you on Sunday, hey, you want to go get breakfast?
Yeah.
Because that's not gonna be us. Even though that's what I want, it's not gonna be that. And so I just need to be okay with what is.
Yeah. And that's, to me, that's normal. I think it's I don't know. I think y'all call my generation Z or X or what is it? What
letter of the alphabet are they, Des?
My dad's 50.
Gee, thanks.
I know. Why you got to at him like that?
Well, I don't know what generation.
Well, you know what? Let me go get my Metamucil for you now.
How you do?
You go get some
Honestly, I need to
Bengay.
start
I already
that.
got that too.
I need to start that Metamucil
that
train.
Bengay,
I got to
actually.
get myself cleaned out.
I think we're Gen X.
I think so. But I wanted to like put my insight on it, how you said that you're the guy to call. I can see where Mary's coming from because as the oldest daughter, we have a lot on us. So you being the oldest, me growing up, I always had to be, in my head, my standards have to be to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you die, in my dad's side of the family, basically I would be next. Like if it was like House of Targaryen type of shit. Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we don't have the money, but we have the structure.
Right. We have the infrastructure. One day when we get the money, we're ready.
But like if my dad died, like then I should be the one to be like, who are we gonna call when shit hits the fan or when we need help? It would have to be me. So I grew up with that mentality. Obviously now as I get older, I don't need to be that way with some people. But again, it takes time and it takes being accountable for yourself as well as the other person that's not putting in the effort.
Yeah. I think what I was going to say with me being whatever generation letter I am is
Sorry.
that's that's the way I see my generation, or in my perspective, is we have that just move on. Whether it's right or wrong, or you hurt somebody's feelings, or it's, what, at some point you just, in my view, it's just, you got to get over it. At some point you can't dwell on the past.
You keep saying dwell on the past. I keep feeling like you're telling me I'm dwelling on the past. I haven't even thought about, these group has done other things to me beyond that one recent.
No. I'm not, it's not per se straight to you, but it's the addition of they did this, they did this, they did this. And when I say like, don't keep looking at the past, but at the same time, it's like, my best description can be like, you already have your jar this full and you're trying to empty it out, but you're not letting the top off to let it overflow and empty out.
Oh, like your basket.
I get what he's meaning, but I'm not like, so even though I'm like putting a boundary up with them, it's not out of anger. I'm not angry about it.
No, I'm not saying to be angry.
Or I'm not even really hurt about any of it anymore because like, who they are. What did you expect?
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with what's happened. It's just, I need a little bit of a reminder as to why the boundary is there so that I don't
I think,
let it be crossed again.
Yeah. But the way I see it is like, you have that reminder, But that's all it is. Just leave it as a reminder.
Yeah.
Not dwell on it. You know what? It might change. It may not. We don't know. But for me, it's there's a saying that, and for me, it's like once you stab me in the back, you're done. You do something to me, to my family, that just doesn't work out, where you hurt somebody, you're done. I've had friends of mine tell me, like, dude, you'll cut their throat and watch them bleed. I said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit there and try to be your friend when you're constantly just throwing me to the dogs.
Yeah.
Why am I going to do that? So with me, like I said, I don't know if it's my generation or not. I just don't even bother.
I think it is. Because you're not holding those people accountable. And it's not that you're dwelling on the past. It's just more so, I'm not asking for forgiveness, or I'm not asking for reasoning behind anything. It's just more so, you're not saying this happened.
I get what you mean.
I'm trying.
I think I know what you're saying. So me and Robert, when something happens, we handle it two different ways. Me, you and I have had issues, like me and Des, we've had issues. So I went and spoke to her directly, and talked to her about it face to face. And I stay until we figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
There we go. Like, you didn't do that, and I'm sure you can't do that.
I think now that y'all explained that a little more, I think it's the generations before.
Yeah.
It's that generational issues. Where you
say dad trauma.
Well, I get where your dad's coming from, because my family, like my mother and her sisters and my dad and their siblings, they don't sit down and talk it out and get it resolved. It just keeps brushed under the rug, and subtle, like, passive aggressive things will happen, or direct confrontations will happen, but they never talk about it.
Oh no, we're the opposite. We will cut you out in a heartbeat.
Well, Robert will do that. That's what I was like. I will talk to the person directly if I want to. Like, if the person is worth it to me to try to fix it, I will go talk to them. Robert, if I were to go tell him, I'm done with Des, I can't do this anymore, I can't be friends with Des anymore, he'll just cut her off. Yeah,
and see, I'm the same way. I mean, Des and I know that we have family members that at a point it was just, you're done, you're cut off.
Yeah.
At least for me, I think you're the same way, Dad. You make it known, like, I'm not doing this anymore, and then it's done.
And I think also with me, maybe my generation, due to the fact that we have the older generations with us still, is we have that, like you said, if we don't talk about it, it's not there.
Yeah.
But also for me, it's, why am I going to waste my time trying to talk to you and explain and see what's going on when you're not going to listen, when you're not going to change? Yeah. So for me, it's, I guess you could say, like a defense mechanism. You know what? I'm done with you.
Yeah, I can, now that you say it like that, I guarantee you that's the exact reason why Robert doesn't bother anymore. Like, if I were to tell him I don't want to see these people anymore, he knows me. He knows that I've already probably had a conversation with them. So he's good with, like, okay, we won't talk to them anymore.
Yeah. And see, to me, that goes back to the, how many times do I give without?
And I think the answer is you decide that.
Exactly.
And I think we should do that in part 2.
Okay, well, in part 1 here.
So we're ending part 1 here. This is our first 2-parter.
Or possibly 3-parter. We'll see how long the second one goes.
Who fucking knows? So thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us on Now Try It With Wine. I'm Des.
And I'm Mary.
I'm Dad.